So I saw Eternals last week. I treated myself to kind of a solo movie date because I wanted to take a break. Obviously, I love going to see these movies with friends, and obviously going to a movie theater with friends is the ultimate experience to have. After seeing so many of these films in theaters, I figured, you know what? Let me mix it up just a little bit, go by myself, and kind of see how I operate as an individual in a movie theater, kind of seeing everyone else's reactions as opposed to paying attention to my friends' reactions. And it was kind of refreshing and exciting, especially since so many in the audience, myself included, really had no clue what we were getting into with Eternals. Now, I'll start by just saying that yes, the film on paper critically seems to be a bit divisive. Definitely think there's some prejudices in those differing opinions that I think are unnecessary. However, I do see why this movie would be considered different from other MCU projects. There's not really a clear villain, or rather an antagonist in this story. Yes, you have the Deviants, which have always been kind of enemies of the Eternals in Marvel Comics, but they're not really focusing on that in this particular story. This is a story that's really about the heroes, the 10 heroes that are in this property. And one of my friends on Facebook he made a great comparison that I had to comment on because obviously I would be knowledgeable of this. They said this movie Eternals was what I wished Power Rangers 2017 was. And for those that have seen our streams here at Knights of the Dirty Table, know that I love my Power Rangers. Almost all things Power Rangers related. They know that I love the movie. But I also have to agree that Eternals does a better job of handling its entire hero ensemble than Power Rangers did. You have a team of 5 heroes and you prioritized 3 of your 5 and giving more support to your supporting heroes. But Eternals, for the most part, I think balances out all 10 of its heroes pretty well. Certainly you have Gemma Chan's Cersei as kind of the central character to the story, and it's good to have a ballpoint to focus on in your story. And definitely Richard Madden's Icarus is probably like the number 2 on the roster, and as far as storytelling goes. And everyone else is kind of supporting to some various degree, including Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie. And I think it's still effective in that I still know who these characters are by the end of the film. And maybe I didn't 100% quite get that from the first time of watching Power Rangers. I got it, multiple times watching it afterwards. But even after just this first time of watching Eternals, I feel like I understood these heroes. And yet I am still excited to see where their stories go in another film. Now, what's even more interesting with that, too, is Marvel Studios recently announced that they're no longer doing multi-movie contracts for their properties, whether it be television or film or whatever. It's all individual contracts. If the actor wants to come back, great, but we're not going to force anyone to sign on for multiple years of work. Taking into example Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, notably for their multi-movie picture deals. So it'll be very interesting to see who decides to come back for Eternals. I would like to see everyone come back, especially personally Angelina Jolie as Thena. That maybe was the one thing where I'm like, I wish we had more of this in this movie, but I'm hoping we can get more of that in not just an Eternal sequel, but also maybe another MCU project further down the line. So I'm excited to see where they go. I was really excited with the very specific cameo of, spoiler warning if you didn't know already, Batman. But also, too, this was kind of put up on the internet before it came out. Harry Styles as Thanos' brother / not brother. I don't quite 100% know the history on that. Someone can mention it in the comments down below. Yeah, very surprising. If you didn't know that Harry Styles was kind of acting already in various things.
Mm-hmm. He is, or?
Is, yes.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't know.
And it's such a quick thing that like we don't even necessarily know where he's going to go in the rest of the MCU. That's why like I don't truly consider it that much of a spoiler.
Mm.
It'd be one thing if like, yo, Thanos is coming at the end of Avengers 1. Oh man, we're going somewhere.
Yeah.
But with Harry Styles being there, it's like, yeah, I don't know.
It's more of a little wink and a nod than Harry Styles is playing a major role within the MCU now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Good for him though.
I will say that the one character that I think was maybe extra in that we didn't quite need them was Kit Harrington's uh, Dane Whitman character, who will become the Black Knight in the MCU further down the line. I thought he was the one extra character in that he was there as a seed for a future MCU project, but you really could have taken him out and it would have affected almost nothing of the story. He was kind of the Hawkeye in this story, I felt. But at least with Hawkeye in Avengers 1, he served the purpose at the end and at least had a stake in what was going on because he was controlled by Loki for most of the movie and he's pissed about it and it messes with your mind. And Kit Harrington's character really was just there in the beginning and there at the end. And we know who he's going to be, or we kind of know who he's going to become at the end of the Eternals film, but still, you could have taken him out and it would have affected almost nothing of the story. So maybe that was the one bit of extra that we didn't need. But other than that, I felt the balance was very good with the overall Eternals cast and even the Celestials who send the Eternals down to Earth and even the Deviants. I never cared for them as characters anyway, so I think they served their purpose just as well to the overall story without giving too much away of the plot and where the plot really goes uh, after the midway point in the movie for those that do still want to see it, which I do recommend. So Rotten Tomatoes has it at like a 52% right now, I think, or maybe even lower than that to tell you the truth, maybe like a
Mm.
47 or whatever. But even so, don't buy it. What this film is, it is not an action piece, not nearly as much as other big ensemble casts within the MCU. This is a character piece. This is a team dynamic film in that how do these characters who have been away from each other for so long, how do they operate when they have to face this new threat where they have to come back together after hundreds of years of being apart? This is a family drama more so than an action epic. And I like it. I think it's refreshing. I think Chloe Zhao was the right person for the job to take on this character piece, to make something that's kind of artistically different than most of what the MCU had done before. Even just Shang-Chi, which came out recently, that felt very different, maybe up until the third act where it started to feel like an MCU movie. Even for me, Eternals, the third act where there is obviously going to be action. It's a Marvel movie. That felt different. The stakes and what that battle meant to these characters felt different than other MCU projects before, and I thought that was very exciting and refreshing. I actually really liked that this movie overall was just detached from the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Not everyone knows. I love my connections. I love seeing all the different pieces and gears turning to make this universe fit cohesively. I love that. But I was also okay to kind of take a break from that in this particular case with a property that is considered as much of a gamble, if not more of a gamble, than Guardians of the Galaxy. I do think that the casting choices were great. I do think everything fits well. I'm everything fits well from a film production standpoint in that I still think it's strong storytelling. I don't know really where we're going with these characters in future things, but that feels exciting for the first time in a long time. Even after Shang-Chi, you kind of had an idea of where we were going to go, more so than Eternals. And with Eternals, it's kind of just such a question mark. And I like that. I think it's exciting. Do I know where it ranks on my list yet? No, not yet. I've decided that I'm going to once Spider-Man comes out, I will look at the MCU. We have at least 4 films to add into the overall MCU list, so I will reevaluate my MCU list at the end of the year after Spider-Man comes out. Not sure how I'm going to fit in the TV shows. If I'm going to fit in the TV shows, that's undecided. I'll come back to that. But Eternals, I would certainly recommend as a watch. It would probably be on the higher end of the list. Some may, for whatever reason, put it in the back half with like Thor: The Dark World and
Hey,
Incredible Hulk,
less of
and
that.
for some, Captain America.
Thank you.
Fair enough. But I would definitely put it on the higher tier of that. I got to look at my list again, so I'll come back to it. But those are my thoughts on Eternals. Now, obviously, Barney, there's admittedly only so much that we can talk about based on a movie that you haven't seen.
Yes.
Was there anything based on trailers that you've seen and hype that you've seen that you're curious about in this movie without going into any spoiler conversations on my part or in the chat for that matter? I'm curious what your thoughts are before seeing this movie because we haven't really talked about it really on the show at all.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm super interested to see it. Especially based after what you have been saying. I definitely got the impression that it wasn't like an action thing. And my concerns would be that it would be hard to make make a movie like that, engaging for a good length of time. But it's an interesting move for the MCU. I'm glad that they're branching out, trying some other stuff.
Definitely, they can't do this kind of movie without earning the right to do it by
Right.
having 25 other movies under their belt.
Do you say that it does remain engaging?
Absolutely.
It doesn't become a snore fest at any time?
I don't think so. I think in this case, with a lot of comic book movies in general, there's become so much more of a focus on relying on the characters themselves to be engaging,
Yeah.
where it kind of doesn't matter who's cast in the role. I think this was the first time in a long time where I at least was kind of, regardless of what was happening, I was excited for what the actor was going to do in this role. This is the first time I think this was an American actor driven piece in the MCU for the first time in a long time for a new property.
Yeah.
And that was kind of exciting and refreshing. I mean, Angelina Jolie and Salma Hayek alone, like, yeah, that would be enough to put me in the seat at the movie theater to go see this movie.
I think that's going to be the case for a lot of people.
Whoa. Welcome to the end of the Knights of the Dirty Table video that you just watched. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to our channel, like our video, share with all your friends, and catch our live stream every Friday live at 5 only on the Zenden Studios Twitch channel. I gotta go wander off into space. See ya! Whoa! Whoa!